Hello, personal productivity enthusiasts and community. Welcome to Anything But Idle, the Productivity News Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith.
And I'm Augusto Pinaud.
And we're your hosts for Anything But Idle. This is episode 58, Teaching Productivity to Your Coworkers, Family, and Friends. What could possibly go wrong? And we're recording this on May 3rd, 2021. Each week we review and discuss the productivity and technology news headlines of the week. And to do that, we have invited Dr. Frank Buck. Most people are overwhelmed by the amount of paper and digital information in their lives. Frank Buck makes organization easy so you can increase your productivity, decrease stress, and enjoy life. Global Gurus ranked Frank number 1 in the world in the time management category for 2019, 2020, and 2021. Three's a charm. His career path took him from band director to principal to central office administrator, and now to productivity coach and speaker. Welcome to Anything But Idle, Frank.
Glad to be here. It's always a pleasure. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And we've invited you on the show just because we like having you, but also because tomorrow is National Teachers Day. And of course, having a background as an educator, you know what it's like. And so this week's theme, we wanted to talk about teaching productivity to coworkers, family, and friends. And I'm curious, let's just start off with, why would it even be important to teach productivity to your peers, family, and friends?
Well, first of all, it's generally not formally taught anywhere else. You know, we ask all the time, why don't they teach this in schools? And there are pockets where it happens. There are individual teachers, especially in elementary school. But by and large, it's not something that's formally taught anywhere. So if we don't do it, it's not going to get done unless somebody just runs up against the brick wall and goes, I got to get organized. I got to do something. So we can help them. And it's something that it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving all throughout life. You teach these skills, it makes you better in everything you do, whether it's learning the cello, basketball, cooking. The principles that you learn as far as productivity are transferable everywhere. That's why we're all in this space.
Absolutely. Augusto, how about you? Why do you like the idea of teaching productivity to coworkers, family, and friends?
Oh, we need to make a distinction in there. You make it a wide nest. You know, I'm completely fine with the friends and coworkers. I hands down on the family aspect. I have quit that job for a while now.
That's not true. You have young children, and they need to learn through modeling from their father how to be productive, right? And that's an important component of it, right? So why is that important?
Well, it is important, as Dr. Buck was saying in a serious, more serious note. And there are two things that make this really important. Thing number one, as Dr. Buck was saying, this is not teach anywhere. And even when it's not necessarily complex, one of the things that it has is an almost unlimited number of variables that affect personality, styles, things you love and don't love. And the second thing is the people in general, okay, need this. Okay, the things that allow people to do stuff 5 years ago, okay, don't work anymore. Okay, things are moving too fast, and you see now all these distractions, all these things in the hands of the people, and they have really, in many cases, no system. Today, we were talking early about the family in the series, not about the family, and I was sharing with Dr. Buck that my kids use Todoist. Okay, they have a Todoist account. Are they using it as I use it? No, of course not. But they have every responsibility they have to, as part of living in this household, it is in there and has reminders. And once a day, I call them, I check. Okay, if there is any outstanding due, then I call them into my office and they come and they need to report, and they have not accomplished them. They need to go and do them right there. And what I'm trying to teach them in part is that my kids are little, or at least one of them is little. But what I want to teach them is, well, if you do it on your own, I don't need to call you. Okay, you did it, you mark it done, that's good. If you don't, then I need to check with you. And that's what is going to happen in real life. Okay, if you are not productive, if you don't understand, somebody else will make sure that you are. So it is important. And as much as it is not difficult to do, it is unique. And sometimes it's really hard to see inside. There is a popular saying there is easy to see. For the love of God, the word in Spanish has escaped me. And a small thing on somebody's eye, that's something really big on yours. And that is true. It is much easier to see stuff that others are doing that see your own things or your own faults or your own shortcomings. So it is because of that, things like what I do, like what you do, like Dr. Buck does, of helping others see these patterns. And not only at their level, one of the things I'm really, really grateful of this is to being able to enjoy, those conversations with the experts, or what the others call the experts, and being able to get their point of view and everything else.
Yeah.
So let's get into effective strategies. Sorry, Dr. Buck. Let's get into effective strategies and techniques for being able to teach productivity in these professional and personal relationship settings. What are some of these things that we should be doing? Mm-hmm. Go for it, Dr. Buck.
All right. First of all, model it. Model it. I talk about tickler files all the time. When I learned about that, I was like 8 years old, watching my dad. He was a lawyer, and that's the first thing he did was open the drawer, pulled out the tickler file for the day. And I understood that. It clicked, but I had to see it first. He modeled it, and then I picked up on it myself. So other people need to see you and see how, I like the word Augusto used, my favorite four-letter word, easy. When you teach productivity, things then become easy for other people. So people see things, it just makes everybody look. So show me what you're doing. Show me how you do that. And then they're pretty receptive to it, and it works for them.
Yeah, that's correct. It's modeling. That's the reason I mentioned at the beginning of the show. My kids started testing to do this. Do I care that they pick a different application later on? No.
Yeah.
Okay. But what I want is to model. They have certain projects that they have visibility, that I want them to see how it works, that I want them to understand they are responsible. My kid is responsible that we don't run out of milk. It's an important responsibility. No, he's 7. Okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. But he's responsible, and he takes his responsibility really seriously. So when that jug of milk gets to a half, you can be sure that he's coming into my house and say, dude, milk. Okay.
Yeah.
And the next step is to teach him, okay, now send it to me and to do it. Okay.
And there's a perfect task manager for remembering the milk.
Well, that is true, but my system lives in Todoist, not in Remember the Milk.
Yeah. And I think another thing is work from concrete to abstract. I think I would start with showing a child a paper to-do list and let them work with that and experience a mark through this, a mark through this. Now it's kind of hard to see what's left because it's all marked through and I don't get something done today and I got to rewrite it on tomorrow's list. And then we can move into, well, hey, with this digital list, you just tap it, it goes away. If it doesn't get done today, it rolls over to tomorrow. Add it to mom or dad's list. I don't have to go and find their list and write it on it. I can put it in my phone and it automatically goes that way. So start with the concrete and then move to the abstract.
And that's a really interesting point you make. Yes, in fact, my kids start in paper, start with checklist.
Yeah.
These are the routines you need to do. These are the things you need to do every day or every night. And they start in paper, and it's now given my daughter much later, my son much early, because at the end of the day, the little one wants to copy the oldest one, as we did, or we got copied by, depending where in that space you are. But because of that, you want to do it that way. But they start on paper, and now they are into the digital and really enjoying it.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating when it comes to the various techniques that we all use in teaching productivity to peers different than our family and friends. I think that in the professional landscape, I am much more inclined to set up a program and to say to everybody, hey, let's all meet and do lunch and learns and go in that more formal perspective. Whereas in the family context, if you're the head of the family, heads of household can kind of establish these kinds of, whatever they might be, policies, disciplinary structures where those things can happen, but they tend not to work as much as kind of putting them on the level, right? Where you're saying, this is a collaborative effort. Let's do this together. And as both of you have talked about, modeling as well as setting in some level of structure that they can then see the structure is working for them and then going from there. So I like those items. Of course, whenever we're dealing with people, there's also the opportunity for it to be fraught with conflict. And so I'm curious, what are some of those pitfalls that you see when people are trying to espouse, there's a frequent conversation in the Getting Things Done or GTD space about how do you indoctrinate somebody in GTD? How do you get them to use GTD? Because it's going to help them, but that they're going to, in some way, shape, or form, go, whoa, this is very complex, many moving parts. Why would I adapt this time management and task management, this whole idea of consistent action management methodology in my own life? How do we overcome some of those pitfalls that we would come into contact with, these obstacles that we face when people are being asked to change in sometimes fundamental ways?
One, I think, is being too strict about it, that you've got to do it exactly the way I do it, because everybody's different. And I think when people have some input into something, they're a little more, we say to children, would you rather do A or would you rather do B? Not A or B or C or D or E or F or G, but A or B, and then they feel like they have some input. And either one of those things is okay. And I think then also on the flip side, being too loose when teaching it. There does need to be some structure, some basic principles, and then have the flexibility within that.
I think there is a couple of things. One is, what are you teaching? Are you teaching personal productivity? Okay. So as the name says, personal, it's about you. So that is different than when you go into that organizational productivity where you can establish certain guides and everybody's sharing, everybody's seeing the progress, everybody's doing task-based communication instead of inside communication. Those two things make a difference. But in general lines, one of the things is start introducing little by little. There is, when you talk, for example, on things like getting things done, most people can handle the book, okay, or the seminar. It's too many changes at the same time. This is not a 1 week project. I don't remember. I think David Allen in the book says it's a weekend project. I don't think so. Okay. This is a many weeks project. And one of the things is make a list of the elements that you want to incorporate in the family, when we started, the first thing we add was the kids, and the kids were allowed to pick a color in their calendar. So when you open the family calendar, they see one color for where the things everybody need to go, one color for each one of them. So now they belong. That calendar belongs to them. When you work into the company, it's the same thing. You need to give the people the possibility to believe that process, that thing belongs to them. Otherwise, why? So instead of trying to say, okay, next Monday we are going to be a GTD house, okay, or a GTD company or a GTD enterprise, how about next Friday everybody has the freedom to get 2 hours to do a weekly review? And these are the guidelines, and these are the things. Now that we are working remotely, hey, get the company into Zoom or Google Meet and let everybody do the weekly review in the camera. We have done it successfully on Personal Productivity Club, Wednesday nights and Friday mornings. So let people, and then from there continue growing. What is the next thing? Okay, let's work projects together. Now let's work how we can work into the task, into the context, into the dividing those next action into small projects. Give small things that people can accomplish instead of saying, okay, by Monday we are all going to be doing GTD, and perfectly.
Progress is perfection, right? We're not worried about perfection ever. And so the goal here is to think about this, that most conflict comes from people having ultimatums and the idea of you having a right side to anything. And I think the biggest message we can say, and just continuing on the GTD analogy, the idea of practicing GTD, I believe that the moment you understand what a next action is and you start keeping a list of next actions, you are practicing GTD. You are now a GTD practitioner. And setting people up for success as opposed to what they're not is, I think, much more useful in terms of de-escalating the conflict that sometimes arises. So really using positive behavioral interventions and really recognizing people when they're doing the right things is always going to be more useful in kind of ameliorating the conflict that arises. So it's kind of like with dog training, and not to equate humans with dogs, but I love dogs and I love humans also. And so they happen to also learn the same way really well. And if you take a dog and you find them doing the right thing and you treat them when they do that right thing, then you find them doing the right thing again and you treat them again, they learn very, very quickly that when they do the right thing, they get treats. And that's really how humans work as well. If we continue to do positive reinforcement and positive reward for people doing things, we tend to get more out of them. And so I think that one of the biggest ways we can just reduce conflict is actually by staying on the side of positive and positivity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, human beings do what works. So our job is to structure the world in such a way that the right thing is the easiest thing and the right thing works. And then life just gets so much easier for all of us, with kids, with dogs, with, you name it.
Absolutely. So this has been a fun conversation to get the party started for Anything But Idle. Let us shift into our headlines this week. And so each week, of course, as I noted earlier, we cover and discuss the productivity news headlines of the week. And so with that, let's get into our headlines. Augusto, what is our first headline this week?
Well, the first headline is how to get notified of price drops using Google Android, or using
Chrome Android.
Right, Chrome Android.
Yep.
And, there is a new price function into the Chrome version of the 90 update available on the Google Play Store. And with that, you can track prices on tabs. And then also you can activate to get alerts when certain things, or the things you're tracking, get, lower price. And it is interesting, as a person who started his professional career selling products and selling technology and hardware. I remember how challenging it was to find that information on the early days of Newegg and Amazon and Tiger Direct and all those. And where still people will trust the retail place versus the online place. And I was lucky or not, I don't know, to experience that transition from where people walk into the retail with their phone or their tablet, or even using the computers and tablets available in the store to check the price online of those products before they walking away. So it is interesting how now we have gone to the point that we don't even need to do the effort of search. We can just open them, decide what to track, and get the alerts when the things are going down on price and to the point we may be looking for.
Yeah, so in the latest version of Chrome Android, you will see an option under your settings to be able to turn on price notifications. And then below that, you can start set price tracking. And then whenever you look at a product page, that comes up, it will actually ask you, do you want to track price drops? And then you will get a notification in your drop down in Android notifications for those. And it's a fantastic feature. I've been using it and been really pleased with seeing it. If you don't see it in your Android, then update to the latest version from the Google Play Store. And if you don't see it after that, then just give it some time. It's just rolling out in terms of features. The features are rolling out for users. Everyone should should have this feature now. And I think it's really great because now instead of having to go around tracking product pricing, Google's going to do it for you, and it'll just alert you when a price drops. And I've seen some really substantial price drops on some Samsung phones where a Samsung Ultra will drop $200 in the course of a day, and it'll just give you a little ping. Hey, by the way, this is $200 less at this particular site. Do you want to grab it? And that's a really great cost savings if you can pay attention to the notifications. All right, on with our next story, Augusto.
Sorry, this news is particularly exciting for me. So Google Chrome desktop will now do that Command C, Command B for files, and in the version 91. So it's right now being played in beta, but it's coming, and you will be able in the Gmail.
No, I just want to clarify for everybody. Command C as in Charlie, and Command V as in Victor, just because V's and B's in Spanish are a little bit differently sounding. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what Augusto just said.
Charlie as in copy and V as in Victor as in paste.
Right. So control and or command on the Mac. So control on Windows, command on Mac. Go for it.
But I think it's really exciting that you are going to be able to do that. Okay. Copy the file, paste, finally. I mean, this is being I'm particularly excited. Even if I cannot do my C's and my V's, I'm still excited.
So for clarity here, folks, what you're now able to do is using Google Chrome 91, you will be able to, on your desktop, copy a file and then go over to your browser where you might have Gmail open or you might have Outlook Web open or another email application, and then Control or Command V, and that will then paste into the email and attach it as an attachment in that email. To date, you have not been able to do that for whatever reason, and now they're using the I believe it's called the data transfer capabilities features within Chrome to be able to do that, and it's just basically allowing access to the keyboard from the operating system. This is very, very powerful.
Yeah. So no more having to click the paperclip. Box comes up. Where click that? Just copy, paste.
You got it. Yep. Just like a normal email program. It's really bringing first class citizenship to the webmail, and that's just very, very powerful. Now, note, I said Chrome 91, and for those of you who don't know, in full disclosure, I'm one of the Google Chrome product experts, and so I volunteer in the Google Chrome help community to be able to help folks with Google Chrome issues, and so we're at Chrome 90, and so Chrome 91 is where it's going to come in general availability, so into GA or general release. You can turn it on right now if you go to Chrome://flags. You will be able to actually turn it on under the flags, and so it is available there for you to be able to turn on. And it seems to be fairly stable. I've had it turned on for several weeks now and haven't had any issues. And so you can turn it on by going into there and typing and searching for clipboard file names being all one word, clipboard file names. It'll come up, turn the default to enabled, and you'll have the capability. You'll have to restart your Chrome engine, so you'll have to restart the browser in order for it to work. All right, Augusto, what is our next story this week?
Well, apparently, it is interesting. It's been so long since I really look into a Windows machine that things like, now the taskbar will use widgets, and that is something exciting in the Microsoft world. Is like, oh, really? I didn't know that they didn't have this. So anyways, the taskbar on Windows 10 now will have widgets. Among them, you will have the weather, the news, stock, sports. You will be able to open the taskbar and see the information actually updated in live, and as in the 21st century.
Yeah, so this was in the April 2021 cumulative update preview for Windows 10. That is version 20H2. You'll get that patch when it becomes available to you, and so that means most of us will not see this. So obviously we'll wait until the later versions roll out. And but once you get that update, I think it's for 21H1 or 21H2, you will see this feature come up. And in essence, what will happen now is in your taskbar, you will see a little widget which will have like weather and temperature and the weather icon showing. When you click on that, it'll give you some news, and you'll be able to organize those items that show up in that new widget. And that's great. I mean, I think it's really wonderful. I will deactivate it as soon as it becomes available in my system. I don't want any of that clutter in my taskbar, but I appreciate what Windows is really doing, which is bringing a little bit more to the desktop interface, what we already experience in terms of widgets on the smartphone. And they're bringing a little bit of that smartphone goodness to the desktop. And while I don't want it, I can see why many, many people will. So I appreciate it. I don't want it, but I think
I
it's
agree
good.
with you. I just thought that was something available many years ago. I didn't know it was something new.
No. And the other part, I believe, is them really just tying into Microsoft Edge. They want to be able to pull up news articles, so you'll click on it and you'll be introduced to Microsoft Edge in some way, shape, or form. And so they want to really push people to Microsoft Edge, and I think this is a good opportunity for them to be able to do it. Edge is a Chromium-based browser, so from my perspective, this is a win for everybody to have a great, solid browser platform to be running in, whether that be Edge or Chrome or otherwise. Or Brave. I've been playing around with Brave for the past month or so, and have been really enjoying the Brave browser, which is also Chromium based. So with a little privacy focus. Okay, onward to some iPad Pro news. Last week we talked about the iPad Pro, and today there was a little bit of news, or this past week there was a little bit of news about the Magic Keyboard.
Yeah, the Magic Keyboard. So we talk about it, and initially there were reports that the new iPad Pro wasn't going to be compatible with the old Apple Magic Keyboards, and there was kind of a lot of articles coming back and forward. At the end
Surprise.
At the end of the week, Apple came with an official answer saying, well, it's not that it's not fully compatible, it's that when you close it, it's not going to close perfectly. It's not going to be, there is millimeters of difference between the prior version and this one, and that's causing that it's not going to be perfect. It's going to be functional, it's going to be workable, but it's not going to be Apple-like, that aka looking perfect. So because of that, they did that. But it caused a lot of news on the week that it wasn't going to be or was going to be compatible. But again, at the end, Apple came with an official clarification saying, nope, it's going to be compatible. It's just that the closing of the thing is not perfect.
Yeah, and I find that to be really remarkable on Apple's part. I mean, they deserve the lambasting here. They are supposed to be known for products just working. And if you're going to do something like the Apple Pencil and the Apple Pencil 2, where you make me buy a different Apple Pencil for a different iPad, come on. Make sure that the Magic Keyboard on your iPad Pro release works with the Magic Keyboards from the legacy version, or say it doesn't work at all. Redefine the Magic Keyboard for everybody and don't make them compatible at all. But this idea that you're making them just maybe work together just seems like an oversight on their part. And so, I understand why people are frustrated. You spend a lot of money on a Magic Keyboard, and then all of a sudden you buy a new iPad Pro, and all of a sudden the Magic Keyboard just quite doesn't work right. That is, it works, but it's not perfect. That's what you expect from Apple. You expect those design details to really be held to. And it was definitely a chink in the dike for me in terms of like, come on, guys, why would you drop the ball on this one when it's something that seems very obvious to me regarding the Apple iPad Pro matching up with the Magic Keyboard, certainly the first version of it with the second one. So,
well, that, or simply, as you said, then call it a new Magic Keyboard, and then there is no discussion. It's a new one. If you buy the 5, you need the new one, and that's it. And yeah, I agree with you. And it was silly for them to make such a dumb mistake.
And with dumb mistakes, on to our sponsor this week. We're going to take a word from our sponsor this week, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club. When we come back from the break, we'll have more with Dr. Buck and Augusto. We'll be talking about some productivity articles we culled from the interwebs. So we'll see you after the break.
While working in person may be normal for you, it's unlikely your coworkers are as interested in being productive as you are. Or working remotely or from home can be isolating. And there's something powerful about being with productive people, even virtually, that helps you be more engaged. If a flavor of these sounds familiar, Co-working Space by Personal Productivity Club is for you. Co-working Space is a virtual work community designed to help members be more effective and efficient in their work and personal lives. At its core, we provide goal tracking and host focused action sessions throughout the week for accountability and camaraderie. Visit anythingbutidle.com/coworking to learn more. Co-working Space lives inside Personal Productivity Club, a digital community for personal productivity enthusiasts, so you can find people who use methods and tools you do too. Again, head over to anythingbutidle.com/coworking to see how Co-working Space can help you be more productive. And now, back to our show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Anything But Idle. I'm Ray Sidney-Smith with Augusto Pinaud and our panelist today, Dr. Frank Buck. We are covering the productivity news headlines of the week. We just covered our tech headlines, and now we are on to our productivity articles segment of the week. Augusto, what is our first article this week?
The first one comes from Michael Hyatt podcast, Lead to Win, and it's called The Power of Identifying Your Non-Negotiables. And the goal of the podcast was to, what are the key components to overcoming your addiction to overwork, to the way that your non-negotiables change season to season or time to time, and what questions should you ask yourself to identify those non-negotiable. It was a good podcast. I believe the non-negotiables are really, really important. And yes, they need to be the big blocks that make everything else around. And I agree with some of the things said on the podcast. Maybe not with everything, but some of the things in which it is really, really important to identify which ones are those non-negotiables. And we were joking before the show started, because at the time, Dr. Buck has been kind enough to be on the show multiple times, and we know that Brandy, his dog, is waiting for that bell to ring so she can get some treat. And Dr. Buck says, I turn it off. And then the bell started ringing, and Brandy was barking really happy. Well, that's a non-negotiable for Brandy, okay? But she's really clear about it. Sadly,
like the bell rings, feed me.
Me. Sadly, we tend not to have those negotiable as clear. And it is really important to identify them, to discover, and to really execute them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of like, where's the yes and where's the no? And if you don't have those defined, then the best things in life get pushed off the table by the things that really don't matter.
Yeah, they talked about some really good items regarding non-negotiables. The episode was clearly focused on selling their new book, and so I got a lot of that sense from the episode. But the vignette that Michael Hyatt told at the beginning of the podcast, or the beginning-ish of the topic of the episode, was really powerful. And I, if you haven't listened to the episode, I recommend doing so for that very reason. And, it's just a reality factor, which is that, we have to be able to create boundaries, and those boundaries really do help us be more productive.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate when those around us who are there to support us in our relationships and families don't abide by those boundaries. But it's important for us to still have them and to hold to them, because that's what's going to make us more productive. And so I appreciated the message of the episode.
Yeah, I have not listened to that particular podcast episode, although I've listened to a lot of Michael's work. And of course, at one time in his life, he near about worked himself to death and nearly lost his family. And I think he learned from that, and is now, it's a good faith effort to teach other people, don't make the same mistakes I did.
Absolutely. Now on to wanting more time for your meaningful work, a Leo Babauta article.
And it was sharing the story of somebody, on their program, but he shares some ideas on the article, about creating a structure that comes back to those negotiables. Okay, what are those negotiables so you can create a structure around them? I don't take, there are certain times on the day that I don't take meetings, because that's the time I spend with the kids. Sorry, that's non-negotiable. Okay, part of the enchantments for me of working from home when before pandemic was go and pick them up at school every day. Okay. And that time was blocked in my calendar because that was the time that I wanted to get there. I wanted to pick them up. I wanted to listen about their day before we get home, and then they could go homework, play, and I can go back to work. But that was a non-negotiable for me. And like that, that has been on the calendar for different things, reading time, create, more space, really replenish yourself, bring some, he called it some zen to disruptions and frustrations. And so we need to understand what they are. And I tell the story, well, my kids has been into this world of productivity all their life. And there are certain things, and we've been in meetings, okay, formal and less formal meetings, and they will stand up next to my desk waiting, okay? And they know only to come if it's important. Now, here is the clarification. It's not important to me. It's important to them. Because if you expect that it's going to be important for you, what you're going to cause is that frustration. It's important to them. And if what they come is really not important at all, then it's your job to teach them what is important. And that the example I'm giving is to my kids, but apply as well to my coworkers, up and down. I mean, up is a little bit more challenging when it's your boss, but can be trained. And I have told the story in this podcast before about the boss who loved to meet at noon. And then HR, he called me every day or every other day at 11:45. And then when meeting ends, I go to lunch, come back, and I found the HR guy like, hey, dude, lunch 12 to 1. I was like, yeah, but I was meeting with lunch 12 to 1. Fine. After a certain number of meetings and me meeting with the HR guy, after that, I went and talked to my boss and said, okay, we have a problem here. Or we need to stop meeting at 11:45, or you need to call the HR guy and tell him that I'm meeting with you, because me getting called because I'm going for lunch late is not working for me. It doesn't work well. Yeah. So there is two options in here. You call the guy or you take me to lunch, period. So, or would you change the time of the meeting? What ended up happening was the next time he called me at 11:45, I stand up in the door of his office and say, where we're going for lunch. And he looked me surprised. Mm-hmm. Said, I told you, there are three options. You call the HR guy, you take me to lunch, or you change the time of the meeting. Those are the only three options. So he told, fine, we will do it in the afternoon. But as a matter of fact, that was the time he liked to meet. So what ended up happening is I enjoy a lot of free lunches because of that. Yeah. Okay. But again, it's changing that disruption and that frustration to something positive. And that sometimes requires to pay attention to that and to understand what you need to do to bring that. So It was a really nice article. I need to admit that I like some of the stuff that Leo writes, or a lot of the stuff that Leo writes, and I'm particularly fond and I have some admiration with his stories. So, it was really meaningful for me.
Yeah, I thought it was a good article. And within the same article, he's talking about the real structure of having certain things that you do on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and batching those items and structure. And then you scroll down the page and you start to see words like bringing freedom and joy and uplifted. So here's my question. Are those opposites, or are those two sides of the same coin? Is one necessary in order to have the other one?
Yeah, I really think that they are complementary. They're complementary components, kind of yin and yang. I read it in the same way, Dr. Buck, in the sense that if you are trying to organize your world, you need to know what the boundaries of your days are going to look like. And when you can understand the efficiencies of your days, a la your routines are then capable of becoming this lattice work on which you can attach more and better work. And you can actually get more done when you understand those routines and you set them up. They can be different every day, but as long as you know what they're going to be, they're going to be. And that means you have the freedom. If you have the discipline to follow your routine, framework, then you have the freedom to be able to do the expressive, creative work that you want to be able to do, this kind of flow work that really is so important to whatever is the meaningful work you want to do in life. And so really enjoyed the article from Leo.
And when you know where the boundaries are, you can go right up to that boundary You've got the whole canvas in which to paint on. When you don't know where the boundary is, you tend to just kind of go right down the middle. You stifle yourself because you never know when you're going to fall off the cliff. You don't know where the edges are.
Yeah, it's like being blindfolded.
Yeah.
All right, Augusto, what is our next productivity article this week?
So now that we give you to identify your non-negotiables, getting the structure, now let's find you a to-do list strategy that works for you. And really, in my opinion, tied up with what we were discussing earlier, and what we discussed at the beginning about helping families and friends and coworkers. What works for you may not work for others. But what is important is that you find something that works for you. We have done in Productivity Cast, we have discussed about the bullet journal. Okay, there is people who swear by the bullet journal that has changed their life. I have tried, okay, and I have failed miserably every time. Okay, not only that, way many years in life back in an old life, okay, I used to love the Lavender books, okay, and the pages, and I spend more money than I'm going to admit, okay, in Lavender products, and they are incredible products, super high end. I love my iPad and my pencil, and I can do all the papers, everything in there in one thing. But that's what worked for me. I was the guy buying books or ebooks from Peanut Press. That was the first company who produced ebooks way before Amazon came with the Kindle, because then I needed one less thing to carry with me. So that has been something that is ingrained in what I do. What works for me, it is really important. But at the same time, when I do coaching and when I work with clients, that's one of the first questions. What's your style? Are you a paper person? Are you digital? Are you mixed? What do you like? What do you enjoy? Are you like me, who lived iPad only and been iPad only since 2000, God knows, 2012. Okay, that has been my main machine, regardless what you think. But that's what worked for me. So what works for you, and that applies so strongly to your to-do list.
All right, Dr. Buck.
Yeah, and the thing with so many people is their system is, I don't have a system. So with this article, the big takeaway from me is, have a system. Put some thought into it, think it beginning to end, and then implement it and stick with it. And if it starts to go off the road a little bit, clean up the system and, invest the time into it to really make it work. Lots of things work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go with it. Yeah.
Yep. It is personal productivity. And so make it personal. And the next article is a Doist article on the life-changing magic of tidying up your to-do list. And so they kind of interpreted Marie Kondo's KonMari method into setting up a to-do list strategy. What did you think about that article, gentlemen?
Go, Dr. Buck, please.
Well, to me, half of it is the tidying it up, the cleaning up the list. Like anything else, it can get to the point, without a little maintenance, it gets to the point where you don't trust what's on the list. And then you don't look at it, and you're back to keeping things in your head or sticky notes around the computer monitor, or you've got to invest a little bit of time to clean things up. I think, Ray, you and I, what was the book we did on Personal Productivity Club, where it used the analogy over and over of a cook putting things back in place, and that the very best chefs, they're constantly cleaning things up. And it's not that takes time. It's that ultimately it saves time, because you know where everything is. You can put your hands on what you need when you need it.
Yeah, that is Work Clean by Dan Charnas, and the whole concept of mise en place, and the way in which chefs use mise en place as a methodology in their own work life, bringing that into the personal productivity space. Yeah, it's a great book. I think it's one of the really top personal productivity methodologies explained in a really cohesive way. So I love Work Clean by Dan Charnas. And it's also called, I think, Everything in Its Place in one of the Amazon Kindle versions.
Yeah, he's renamed it or something. I think that just makes the title come across to the average person who's not familiar with the book, the title comes across more exactly what it is.
Yeah, I still love the Work Clean title, but everything in its place is like
Yeah.
I think it's the audiobook version versus the paperback or something like that. So absolutely. I thought it was a really well done, thorough article. I thought that it gave a lot of really great insight into some of the things that KonMari really espouses, certainly starting off with why. That's a very Dr. Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People kind of message for me. So it speaks to me in that sense. And I felt like it walked people through a method pretty cohesively. And so I felt good about that. And I think that anyone can start from that place and then personalize it, customize it to their needs. And so that's all good there. All right.
It was a really fantastic article.
Great. Let's go on to Clausewitz and the concept of friction. So this was an Art of Manliness, I think, article. Talk to me about your thoughts on Clausewitz, the general, and his thoughts on friction.
Well, it goes back to there is a quote in that article that says everything in the world is simple, but the simple thing is difficult. The difficulties accumulate and end by producing the kind of friction that is inconceivable unless one has experienced war. And when I read that, I say, oh, you may referring to the certain to-do list that I have seen in the past. Because when we explain the concept of the things that we need to do on the to-do list per se, it's really simple. The problem are those little things that start accumulating. That thing you capture that you capture poorly. That thing that you write instead of saying, send email to Dr. Buck about Todoist program, you write Buck Todoist. Okay. And now you're trying to
What does that mean? Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that those little things start causing friction, and that friction seems to be accumulating into that system really until a point that unless you have been on a system that has failed you for that, you don't know what it is. So
there was a couple. Oh, go ahead. Finish.
Part of your job with this list, and I try to sort the articles to what makes sense to me in order-wise, obviously, but it's look into if you can follow that, understand those negotiables, understand what you want, what the strategies, how to make it more. One of the things you are inevitable going to find is what are the frictions on your system? Mm-hmm. What are the things on your system that are not allowing you to experience the prior and that are not allowing you to move forward? And the more you spend looking into them and clean them up and polishing them and getting rid of them, the better your trip will be.
Mm-hmm. And these days we hear so much about do the big things, do the important things. And we feel bad if we're eliminating the friction, if we're handling the little things. But it's the preventive maintenance that keeps the wagon wheel from falling off. And then the little thing becomes a huge thing. I got to repair the wagon. So I think we don't need to feel bad about doing those little things, doing the little things that remove the little bit of friction that makes the whole system just work so much better together. A little WD-40.
Or duct tape.
Duct tape.
If it's supposed to move, it's WD-40. If it's supposed not to move, it's duct tape.
It's duct tape, yeah.
So there's a couple pieces here that I think are important to understand. Maybe a contemporary quotation will help here, which is Mike Tyson is noted as saying that everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? And that's really what Clausewitz is really talking about here. And the notion that friction is better related to kind of a science analogy, and I tend to use this in the science analogy, which is we need enough friction for tires to be able to actually move us forward, right? If tires don't have frictions, they would just spin in place. So we need enough friction to be able to move things forward, but too much friction and inertia sets into place and we won't be able to move the tires at all. And so we're basically finding that right space, that right amount of friction in order to be able to move things forward. People complicate things, that's a clear one. And that doesn't mean that the friction can't be bad. It can actually really be vital and bring vitality to any given project. And I found the article to be just really one of those things where, there's a bit of stoicism in there. There's a bit of, just thinking through how do we make ourselves fully invest in the work that we're doing, and understanding that friction is a part of that work that we're doing, and it can actually be fruitful. I really like the 4 components that he talks about in the article here, of these elements of being able to move forward with these things. And I'm scrolling up here to find the 4 elements because I thought they were really interesting. One was staunchness. Let me find it here. I don't know why I've lost my my place in the document here. Does anybody else? Oh, here it is. He gives staunchness, which is the ability to not get rattled by a single setback or failure, and what I consider a stumble. Right? How to stumble well, because stumbling is not hitting the ground. Stumbling is just faltering and then righting yourself. Endurance, strength of mind, mental, emotional fortitude. And the whole notion here is that we're capable of utilizing these attributes. So energy, which is emotional energy, staunchness, endurance, and strength of mind were the 4 that he uses as these components for being able to have strength of will to be able to move forward with any given project. I liked those components there, and it's a heady topic, but I think that Clausewitz really represents an old world view, a romantic view of dealing with and overcoming challenge. In this case, what he's calling friction. Mm-hmm. All right. So those are headlines this week. And that takes us on to our tools of the week before we get to our story of the week. Let's get into our new tools of the week. And so Augusto and I come across many personal productivity tools and services each week. And in new tools of the week, we each bring you a tool we think you might like. And of course, we invite our panelist today, Dr. Buck, to also share one of those. And so today we're going to be talking about a couple of different items. First and foremost is a tool called Duolingo. And Duolingo is an application that you can use in order to learn languages. And I've been using Duolingo for years and years and years, and just really enjoy it for a number of reasons. One, it has a whole bunch of really great languages, including Klingon. So if you want to learn Klingon, it is in there. I kid you not. And the idea here is that, so our Trekkies in the house will understand. And so the idea here is that you are gamifying your language learning approach. And each day you just do a little bit to be able to practice it, including recording your voice against pre-recorded sound profiles of native speakers saying words and phrases. And so you're capable of going through and doing all of this really sophisticated learning while in this gamified approach where you're leveling up and you are making your way from one lesson to the next and getting rewards. You can even join little groups where you are doing this in competition with friends in a leaderboard. And it's just a fun application that gives you immediate clear feedback in terms of what's right and what's wrong, and it gives you the ability to practice daily on languages. It's free. You can level up and pay for certain parts to be gotten rid of, like ads and so on and so forth, but you don't need to pay if you don't want to. And, language is really the way in which you connect with other people in the world. I can't find another better way to spend time liberally, that is in a free sense, than to do language learning. And so Duolingo is there for you, and I think it's a great tool. Augusto, what's your tool this week?
Well, since you cannot learn to speak Iwokese with Duolingo, I will not use it for now. That's not true. The first tool, the tool in the week for me is Amazon Kids Plus. It used to be called Kindle or Free Time Unlimited. And my kids, I bought a Kindle for my kids, not the tablet, the reader. And it is the only device they're allowed to get to bed. And there are 2 deals with that. They have the Kindle, okay, that is, as you can see on the screen, $2.99 a month for kids. When you get 2 kids, I think it's $4, okay? And they have a really incredible big library. The other thing I do, since we have been talking about education and all that, reading is important for me, and it's important for my kids. So we have a rule. If the book is not available in Amazon Kids Plus, I'm happy to buy it. And the condition for me to buy it is you need to finish the last book. And that has allowed me to buy them a lot of books, but also for them to read, for the age that they have significantly. Both my kids finish a lot of books every month. So I'm happy to spend that money. And I think if you have kids, and since we are in Education Month, this is an incredible, incredible gift. Buy them a Kindle, put this thing in there, and let them read until they are tired.
Fantastic. All right. Dr. Buck, what is your new tool this week?
My new tool this week is Google Photos. Now you're going, Frank, Google Photos, that's not exactly new. But what is new is what's about to happen on June the 1st. And so May needs to be a get in on Google Photos month. Here's the thing. Up until now, Google Photos has been free, and anything you upload, it didn't count against your Google storage limit of 15 gigabytes. Starting June 1st, that changes. It's still free, but what you upload does count against those 15 gigabytes. So a lot of people are going, oh, well, where am I going to take my photos now that I can't upload everything for free? They're looking at it all wrong. Here's the way we need to look at it. Google has announced that your grandfathered. Anything that you already have in Google Photos will not count against the 15 gigabytes. And anything you upload before June 1st won't either. So here's what we all need to do. Take every photo we've got and upload it to Google Photos. The only caveat, the quality, you want to choose not original quality, but high quality. Now, and there's another little caveat. If somehow you've messed up along the way and you've uploaded things to original quality, there is a way to figure that out. I did a blog post a while ago. If you go to my website, frankbuck.org, and just search for Google Photos, that'll bring you to that post that tells you what I've just told you. And it also shows you where to go to see if you've got some things counted against your 15 gigabytes from Google Photos already. And if so, how to get those photos compressed for you so that that's at 0. So May needs to be get everything in Google Photos month for us all.
Absolutely. Google Photos is such a fantastic application, and so it gives you so many great features. And so yes, get your Google Photos organized before the deadline, and then going forward, you can easily keep and manage your photos from there. Yeah. Wonderful. Great selection all around, gentlemen. And so onward to our story of the week. Continuing on with some Amazon goodness, let's talk about our story of the week, Augusto.
So Amazon has this Fire HD tablet, and I think timely to, getting out of school, coming to the next year, now that we have experienced all that, they came with what they call the productivity bundle. So basically you're going to get a Fire HD 10 tablet of 32 gigabytes, and you're going to get a Bluetooth keyboard and 12 months of Microsoft 365 personal subscription. The subscription will auto-renew, so if you don't want it to renew, you need to go to the settings and deactivate the auto-renew. But what is interesting to me is you have been able to use these Fires. At the end of the day, these Fires run Chrome OS, okay, or a version of Chrome OS, Chromium. And what is interesting is now they're finally getting to turn it into a Chromebook, into affordable. It's $220. It's comparative to the Lenovo Duet, price-wise. I think the Lenovo Duet, it's a fantastic option. It's what I'm using to record this show right now. But it gives, if you live into that Amazon ecosystem, it's great. On top of that, I'm going to say, as a parent, if there is no better parent protections than what Amazon established. It's better than Apple, better than Chrome, or Google per se, and it is fantastic. You can do things like saying, my kid can watch the TV only when he reads 2 hours, okay? And they will track all that for you. So if you're looking for a device for your kid to go the next year, that is basically where they're going to need some of that Office 365, hey, this is an incredible option.
Yeah, so just a quick correction. It is Fire OS, so it is not a variant of Chrome OS, but a variant of Android OS. And so it's running an Android operating system that Amazon has branded as Fire OS. But yeah, it's a fantastic bundle for kids at $219 USD. It's going to be available May 26th. And clearly this is aimed at summer and fall, back to school kind of thought here, which is to get kids a device that you can do this. Now, a couple of points here. If you buy one of the Amazon Kindle kids tablets, it actually comes with that free time unlimited for a year. You get a free year worth of that Kids Plus. So be mindful of that. You kind of have to balance out the pieces here, that if you have a younger child and you want to be able to have something that's going to be a little bit more durable, that kids tablet bundle has the bumper. It has basically a case that you can chuck across the room with the Kindle tablet in it. And it has a screen protector as well, plus a warranty, meaning that you can crack it over your knee and then call Amazon and say, oops, don't do that. That's that. But I mean, if it legitimately breaks with your kids, you can go ahead and talk to Amazon and they will replace it through their warranty program. So I think it's a 1 or 2 year warranty. You can look it up in the Amazon Kindle section and in the Fire tablet section and see. So like balance out the pricing here, because those Amazon Kindle Fire tablets are really inexpensive. They're not coming with the Microsoft 365 personal subscription, but most of your kids are going to actually be in the Google Workspace for Education space. So having a Microsoft 365 subscription will not necessarily be that useful to them. So you have to kind of balance out some of those pieces. And Dr. Buck, in your experience, are you seeing more kids on Chromebooks today with Google?
Absolutely, Chromebooks. Yes.
Yeah. So I think an Android tablet with Google, pieces in them, being that Fire OS is already an Android tablet where you can install all of the Android applications you need, is going to be powerful. But maybe the 365 personal subscription is not really worth it. So you got to kind of balance out those pieces here. But I think it's a really interesting play that Microsoft is making here to be able to get into the education space. I would presume that they were really trying to make a true step in here. They would have somehow worked with the school systems to be able to tie these pieces in, but they didn't. So I'm just a little curious what they're trying to get at here. It also doesn't come with a screen protector. It would have been really nice if they had a screen protector here. And I would also note that this is a 32 gigabyte one. You can go up to 64 gigabytes, and that is still ad supported. If you don't want ads, and you click on that, notice the price jump up to $274.99. So you're at $275 USD if you want it to have the highest memory and without ads. Okay, so just be mindful of the pricing structure here. Amazon is obviously this is still, really great price for a student device, but you're getting up there in terms of price. And at this price point, there's a Lenovo Duet that you can purchase that's going to have a full desktop operating system with Android available to it, and it's going to be a pretty nice device quality-wise for the child. So I'm just like, is the Microsoft 365 subscription really worthwhile here? Is my thought.
Well, the exciting part, I think, is seeing the first Fire with the productivity bundle, as they call it, and I hope that this is not the last one.
No, I think it's really great, and in terms of having options out in the marketplace, I think it's good that Microsoft is playing nice with others. They have stepped into that game with Samsung, as we talked about at the Samsung Galaxy Unpacked event last week, and they have been playing nice with a lot of different organizations, and clearly, they're running Android, so they have to be in some way, shape, or form in partnership with Google as an OEM, and so. This is nice to see Microsoft, continuing to step out there. Microsoft is up their game in terms of their Android apps, like using Word or really Microsoft Office on Android seems kind of like kind of anachronism to say that, you would ever do that. But the reality is now you can do it. You can do it pretty well. Outlook works. I think Outlook is one of the best email tools on the Android platform. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that, right? But Outlook is just really working well on the Android platform. And that's thanks to Microsoft recognizing that working on both iOS and Android is imperative for the success of Microsoft in the long term. And they're seeing Amazon as an additional extension there as well. So. All right, gentlemen, we have reached the end of the show. Dr. Buck, if folks want to keep up to date with you and the great work you're doing in the world.
Before you say goodbye to Dr. Buck, there is 3
Big
announcements.
event coming here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm sorry, go for it. We got some announcements.
The first announcement is tomorrow, Dr. Frank Buck and myself are doing a free conference in an hour conversation, similarities and differences between Remember the Milk and Todoist on the Personal Productivity Club. If you are watching live, it's tomorrow. If you're listening, it's today. But if not, the replay will be available on Personal Productivity Club. Also, if you are interested on the Microsoft Build 2021, that's their developer conference, you can start getting there. It's going to be virtual, starting May 25th through May 27. Also, as we mentioned, we record the Samsung Unpacked last week, and we record a special event for that. It was published on Friday. And finally, last week, iPad and iOS and Mac released update, and they today released a second update for security issues. So it's 14.5.1 or 11.3.1. So if you're listening to this, go and check to update.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to watching the event tomorrow or today, depending upon whether you're watching or listening. And so with that, officially now, Dr. Buck, where can folks keep up to date with you?
frankbuck.org. That's where it all happens. Come on over, get on my email list. Got a couple of good free gifts for you right off the bat. You also see Twitter and Instagram. I'm at Dr. Frank Buck on either of those 2 platforms. So come and let's get connected.
Yep, and that is Dr. Frank Buck for those who are listening. And so thank you, as always, for joining us here on Anything But Idle, Frank.
It was a pleasure.
Take care. All right, Augusto, thanks so much for joining me as always. Yes.
My pleasure.
All right, everybody. And with that, we've covered the productivity news of the week. We'll be back here next week for Anything But Idle. If we missed a story, we are likely tracking those in the extra stories in the show notes, so check those out. But if we really did miss a story, feel free to contact us at anythingbutidle.com. You can go to the contact page and let us know. You can also comment on the show episode page, and let us know in the comments, and let all the other folks reading know as well. You can tweet or DM us at Anything But Idle, at Anything But Idle on Twitter. And if you have a question or a comment about anything else we discussed on the show, you can leave a comment on the episode page at anythingbutidle.com. This is going to be /058. That's the episode number. So anythingbutidle.com /058 will take you to the episode page once it's published, and you'll be able to comment there. While you're on Anything But Idle, there on the episode page, you will find our show notes. Those will have links to all the stories we covered, the new tools of the week, some extra stories, the stories we can't cover in our time frame during the show, and it also includes a text transcript both for download and for reading. If you click the read more link on every episode page, it'll expand and you can actually read along while you listen. It's a machine generated transcript, so it's not going to be perfect, but it gets you through the episode and you can kind of track along. If this is your first time watching the live stream, feel free to click the subscribe button and the notification bell icon so you get notified when we have new episodes. If you are listening to us for the first time in your podcast app of choice, make sure to follow and or subscribe. Subscribe is better than follow. That just downloads the episodes automatically for you, whereas follow just gives you a notification in the Apple Podcasts world. But either way, feel free to follow us there. You can find instructions on anythingbutidle.com. Just click on the follow or subscribe tab, and it'll give you instructions for being able to do that. And of course, you can leave a rating or review. You can thumbs up our video on YouTube if you're watching there, and that helps us know that we're doing good work, but also it tells the algorithms, the social network gods, that we're doing the right things, and brings new personal productivity friends into the fold. I talk about small business all day, so I get conflated there. But anyway, thank you for doing that. And with that, see you all next time on Anything But Idle. Here's to your productive life.